Affectionately known as the Tiger of Jelutong, my father was a man of immense courage and resilience. Throughout his life, he faced numerous struggles, personally, professionally, and politically. Many of you know that in 2005, my father's life took a dramatic turn when he was involved in a severe accident that left him confined to a wheelchair. The physical setback was one that was one of his most profound challenges he ever faced. However, his spirit was undeterred. Despite physical limitations, he continued to practice law and serve as a member of parliament, proving that his commitment to justice transcended physical constraints. This accident in 2005 happened just a few weeks before I was admitted to the bar. I had the honor of spending much of the last 10 years of his life and the first 10 years of my career working very closely with him. And that was indeed a blessing for me to have had the opportunity as a young adult to have spent almost all day of every day in those years with my father. Karpal the lawyer was indeed a force to be reckoned with. Known to be a champion for the people and the defender of human rights, he didn't just represent his clients. He stood up for the voiceless and the oppressed, whether defending political detainees, challenging oppressive laws, fighting for the rights of minorities or those on death row. His courtroom battles were always personal. Human rights were at the heart of Karpal's career, and his legal battles centered on defending the intrinsic dignity and right of every individual. Now, Karpal, the politician, in the political arena, to me, my father was the embodiment of political integrity. In a political landscape marred by corruption and self-interest, he stood out as a paragon of honesty and transparency, and his principles earned him the respect of both friend and foe. Over the years, I quickly learned that there was very little glamour or glory to be associated with being a politician, especially if you were in the opposition. In the early years of their political career, our political veterans spoke up fearlessly at the cost of constant threat and actual exposure to persecution. These were the realities of politics from the very start of my father's political career, which only reaffirmed his character as the unshakable political giant he was. Today, however, I feel it necessary to highlight, to remember some of the significant struggles he faced, much of which formed the core of the political struggle shared with those in power today. Now, as a staunch critic of the government, my father was no stranger to considerable political persecution. His outspoken nature often put him at odds with those in power, frequently targeted by authorities designed to silence him. Despite these efforts, Karpal remained undeterred. In fact, he was known to have said on a number of occasions, "If you are looking for trouble, you have come to the right place." Now, one example of such political persecution was when he was detained without trial under the ISA. It was 1987, a year meant to be a joyful one with the birth of my youngest brother, Man Karpal. He shares the same birth date as my father. However, that joy was short-lived. The Malaysian police had carried out a massive crackdown in the country, resulting in the arrest of 106 innocent Malaysians under the ISA. A crackdown commonly known as Operation Lalan. In what was a complete abuse of power by the then Mahathir-led government, mainstream media was targeted, newspapers were shut down, politicians, activists, and many others arrested under the ISA and put behind bars without trial. To our horror, on the 27th of October 1987, my father was also arrested under the ISA. And this was the beginning of the most traumatic time for us as a family. Mostly my mother, who had to hold fort and indeed did. As a 8-year-old, I was somewhat shielded from the intricacies of that unlawful detention. Now, perhaps on behalf of my mother, I now recount the events that took place as she remembers it, and some of it as I do. On that day, Karpal was taken away from us, and for days we did not know where he was. Frantic calls were made to the DAP HQ, police stations, all of whom had no information for my mum. Finally, about 12 days later, she was allowed to visit him at the Jalan Bandar police station. The visit lasted less than half an hour. She had arrived very early in the morning with some food, together with my then 4-month-old brother. She was thoroughly searched before she was allowed in, and she was not allowed to see him privately. In fact, they were heavily guarded, and a Punjabi police officer was positioned there to ensure no private conversations took place. She recalled the first meeting as a heartbreaking one. My father's health had significantly declined to the extent that he had become almost unrecognizable. The ailments that he had contracted during this inhumane confinement was unbearable to accept. However, she saw that he was steadfast in his determination to fight, and ironically, she drew strength from him. After 53 days of solitary confinement, my father was sent to the Kamunting detention camp. And this is when our weekly Saturday visits began. Every Saturday, we would start our journey in the early hours of the morning. Mom would drive with the 5 of us in the car and food she had cooked for my father. We were often made to wait at the gates of Kamunting for hours, sometimes even the whole day before we were allowed in. It was clear that the idea was to make it as difficult as possible for us. This became our weekly nightmare, and our whole day's efforts sometimes gave us only an hour with him. True to his spirit, however, it was not long before my father regained his strength. This was detention without trial. This was intimidation and repression. And Karpal Singh was not going to take it sitting down. On the 9th of March 1988, we achieved a major victory in the Ipoh High Court, where he succeeded in his habeas corpus application, and he was released. We were overjoyed, and we left the Ipoh High Court. I think my mother recalls this day clearly as I do. We got into the car from the Ipoh High Court and headed to the Pusing Gurdwara for a Thanksgiving prayer. On the way to the Gurdwara, we were stopped at a roadblock. A police officer informed us that my father was to be rearrested. We asked him to allow us to go to the temple to perform the prayers first, and he allowed it. We took refuge in the Gurdwara, staying there for almost 10 hours from my recollection. It was then that a Punjabi police officer was sent into the temple to give us some good news. He said, "The order to rearrest has been withdrawn. You are free to go home." But it was then when we left the Gurdwara for Penang, and most unfortunately, that was simply a ploy to get us out of the Gurdwara. My mother was in the car with the baby and my father. As they approached Nibong Tabal, they were stopped at a police roadblock. The back door of the car was suddenly pulled open, and my father was dragged out of the car, bundled and pushed into a black Maria. They sped off with him, and to our dismay, he was rearrested despite his victory in court just hours before. We were later informed that he was taken to a police lockup. Later, he was admitted in the GH due to deteriorating health conditions. And then he was sent back to Kamunting, and our Saturday visits resumed. Our legal battle continued. And on the 28th of January, 1989, my father was finally released. Now it has been reported that in or about November 2017, former Prime Minister Tun Mahathir Mohamad expressed regret, acknowledging in an interview that many of those detained under Operation Lalang were good people, and he had demonized them to win elections. With the greatest of respect, an expression of regret pales in comparison to the atrocities inflicted on those detained in Operation Lalang. To date, there has been no accountability by the government for such an atrocity, and it matters not which government it is. With that in mind, I feel it is important to remind ourselves of the many who sacrificed their lives for a better Malaysia. Warriors such as my father and the late P. Pato may no longer be with us, but their service and sacrifice must never be forgotten. I would like to highlight one other incident that has stuck with me. And this was when my father was physically attacked on the grounds of Parliament in 2009. While he was on a wheelchair, he was attacked by a group of UMNO youth members in Parliament grounds. The attack is a stark reminder of the dangers he faced in the pursuit of justice and equality. But he refused to be intimidated, and you saw that clip as part of the video when we started today. He refused to be intimidated, continuing to speak against injustice and defending those who couldn't defend themselves. Such disgraceful conduct is not to be forgotten. It was far more than an assault on my father, but an act of intimidation on those who dared speak out. Now, carrying forward his legacy in politics today, to truly honor his legacy in politics, it is not enough that the principles he stood for remain abstract ideals. Instead, this government must actively commit to them. My father's commitment to justice and the fair application of the law was not just a professional duty. It was a deeply personal mission. Justice is not a privilege for the powerful, but a right for everyone. He was a beacon of hope for those whose voices were silenced, whether speaking out against the death penalty, protecting freedoms of speech and assembly, or advocating for religious tolerance. This is not just a political responsibility, but a moral duty. His integrity was the bedrock of his public life. He never shied away from holding those in power accountable, opponent or ally. For him, decisions were made based on what is right and not what is politically convenient. My father's courage was legendary. He stood firm on his views, faced criticism and condemnation, but was never cowed. Courage in the spirit of Karpal Singh is about doing what is right, not what is easy. At home, amidst his public battles and a life dedicated to public service, he always made time for us. He instilled in us the values of hard work, perseverance, and humility. He showed us that success is not measured by wealth or accolades, but by the positive impact we have on the lives of others. His love and support were constants in my life, anchoring me through life's ups and downs, and it remains so till today, even after a decade gone. To end, I say this: Karpal Singh's legacy is a deeply personal one for many Malaysians. The name Karpal Singh remains the voice of conscience, steeped in profound respect and admiration. Karpal's life will continue to remind us that true leadership is rooted in courage, in compassion, and in dedication to doing what is right, regardless of the personal cost. I miss your guidance, Pa, and your light. I miss you. Till we meet again, rest in peace. There will never be another Karpal Singh. With that, I thank you.